G'day, viewers and listeners. It's Ed Fox and Lisa Smith. I'm learning to say Lisa instead of Lisa or
Good job.
Lisa Smith, back with another episode of Bada Bing, Bada Boom.
Because it is just that easy. And today we have a special guest and we are going to prove how easy it is.
Thank you, Lisa. It is just that easy. And our special guest is Debbie Sardone, the #1 residential cleaning business consultant and academy in the world.
And she
That's right.
to be simply brilliant at barter. It
That's
saved her
right.
business. We're going to learn more.
And so we happened to come across this book through one of our clients here in Trade Bank who said we needed to read this book. And so I reached out to Debbie. She's got it on Amazon for those of you that want to know how barter works. And Debbie, hey, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This is one of my favorite topics on the planet because bartering saved my business when I was struggling and nearly going out of business. So I thank all of you who are in the professional barter industry for saving businesses all over the country.
Yeah, well, and thanks. That's what we wanted to talk to you about. Lisa, do you have a question you're dying to ask Debbie?
Well, I actually have a couple. I absolutely loved your book, love your barter stories. I think that's one of the best ways to share what we do with other people. What inspired you to write the book? Because not everybody who has a perfect story like you writes a book.
I was inspired to write the book because I didn't take barter seriously until I nearly lost my business and it was my last hope. And so I wrote the book to help people realize that when you're on your last leg, when you're ready to close your doors and go bankrupt and give up, you haven't tried this one thing that most people aren't taking advantage of. And I wrote that book to help other business owners, #1, save their business in a crisis. But #2, save a fortune in money they spend, cash money reserves that they need on things they could have bartered for.
Yeah, and that's so true, isn't it? Because for me, I started my first business at 15. We had video rentals. And so we used video rentals to barter for anything because we didn't have any cash, right? And so, I could get sign writing done. I could get oil changes done. I could get printing done. I could get carpet cleaning done. And all I did was trade movie rentals. But I had never heard, so I had never heard of a managed barter platform until I became a client. I know from reading your book that you've done some one-on-one barters and you've been involved in a managed barter platform. And how did you find out about a managed barter platform? Did they seek you out or did you seek them out?
So there was a gentleman that would call on me at my office with regularity. And I would say he would check in with me 2 or 3 times a year for a good 5 years. He pursued me. He said, Debbie, you should join the trade association. Debbie, you should join the the barter industry. And I kept thinking as a business owner, this was my thinking because it was backwards. I kept thinking, why would I barter with somebody who would pay me? Right? That was my thinking is, why would I barter with somebody who would pay me? I need the money for payroll. I need the money for lights and rent. And at the time, he was struggling to get across to me, no, you are bartering with people who are not your customers and aren't likely to be your customer. Maybe they can't afford your service just the same way you can't afford that new sign on your building. And I didn't understand that until he came and called on me one day, and I was at like the depths of despair. I was about to lose my business. I needed to move to a smaller office. It was at the height of the recession, and I was struggling to make rent. I needed to move to a smaller office, and I was about to move my antiquated phone system. This was back in the day when we all had landlines, and I had this old-fashioned like switchboard and this device hanging on the wall where all the connections were connected. I don't even know how it worked. But I got a quote for moving it. And this antiquated equipment was going to cost me over $5,000 to move it, install it, and make sure it worked. And he happened to call on me on that day when I was struggling, thinking, how on earth am I going to move my phone system? And without phones, I'm out of business. And I had no choice. I didn't have $5,000. I was maxed out on my credit cards. And he came at the right time and he said, tell me something you need. And I said, well, I'll tell you what I need. I need a new phone system. My system is antiquated. And he said, I have a guy on barter. He said, we have a guy that will barter for a whole new phone system. And all you have to do is put into the barter network about $5,000 worth of cleaning. And that was my light bulb moment. I said, so I don't have to write him a check for a phone system? He said, no, you just have to put $5,000 worth of barter cleaning into the network, which will be redeemed over time, not even overnight. And I said, sign me up. Within 2 weeks, I had a new phone system. Now it was a refurbished system because that was the business he was in. He would take phone systems. If they were good, he would clean them up and refurbish them and then sell them on barter.
Mm-hmm.
And I had $5,000 worth of telecommunications equipment, modern. Every desk in my office had a new phone. He came in and did the install. It cost me zero cash.
Wow.
And I was a barterer for life in that moment. I said, where have you been all my life? And he said, I've been chasing you for years. You just never understood it would save you money.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that was kind of like my story. They chased me, and a friend, the guy normally would hit me up at networking events. And he finally said, he pulled this fake friend card. He said, I'm pulling a friend card. You're going to sit down, you're going to shut up, and you're going to listen. I said, yes, sir. And same sort of thing is he showed me I had gaps in my advertising newspaper. And he said, I can fill those gaps with barter, and you can spend that revenue on whatever you need. And I didn't understand it, right? It wasn't until he explained it to me. So when you must talk to people about barter a lot, Debbie, to have made you sit down and write the book, what do you normally tell them, or what are they normally asking you that their biggest concern is?
So that was one of the reasons I also wrote the book, is I would try to explain barter to people and they wouldn't get it because they would think like I was thinking, well, why would I barter with you if you're willing to pay me, right? I want your money.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hard for me to get across the fact that I'm not willing to pay you. I can't afford a new sign for my building. If we barter, I can afford it and you can get your house clean. And so I was struggling to explain this to others. So I wrote the book in part to help them understand better how powerful barter would be for growing their business and growing their client base. So oftentimes I would take my book before approaching a new barter relationship, right? And instead of coming to somebody saying, hi, will you barter with me, right? Coming with an ask, I would say, I'd like to give you a gift. This changed my business and it helped me grow my business without spending more money. I'd love for you to read it and I hope it benefits you. So I would give them the book. Then I would check back a week or two later and say, what did you think? And if they read it, they're like, that is awesome. I'm like, great. I need a new sign for my building. Do you need your house cleaned?
Right.
And it was like the
Exactly.
perfect way to explain the system to them without me sitting down and talking to them for an hour and trying to convince them and then them saying, I don't know, and then walking away.
I love the way you laid out the book and the stories that you told. I think the stories are so easy for people to relate to. But at the end of the book, and then looking at your website, I do have a question. So you started out as someone who had a cleaning business, but now you are the #1 residential cleaning business consultant. How does that relate to barter? Would the #1 in your category ever have happened if you had not have found barter?
No, it wouldn't have, because I would have been out of business. I was out of money.
That's what I thought.
I was out of cash. My credit cards were maxed out and I needed a phone system. And if I had pulled my rent money and my payroll money to buy a phone system, my employees would have quit and my landlord would have kicked me out and I would have been out of business. And so I would not have been able to climb out of my dark hole during the recession and pay my bills and get my necessary signage, my necessary printing, my wonderful music on hold that was created on barter that would have cost me $400, but I did it on barter. It was all these things that I was able to think about before I write a check for something I need in my business. Is there someone out there that will barter with me inside our network? And as I use those barter opportunities, I was able to pay down my debt, climb back out of the hole, and reemerge from the end of the recession stronger and better than ever before. And then years later, I launched my consulting business. And one of the training modules in my consulting business besides, you know, how to grow a cleaning business, how to hire employees, how to price jobs, how to raise prices, how to clean better, how to train better, all that. There's one lesson in there on how to barter successfully, because if you're not bartering successfully, you're leaving money and opportunity on the table. You're crazy if you don't barter.
Absolutely. I own a co-working center here in North Alabama, and I could not agree with you more. I would be leaving money on the table every single month. And I had a similar aha moment to you. And my first 11 months in, I needed a big sign, and you know what signage costs. And I was able to pay for that $10,000 expense on barter.
Right.
That was,
Exactly.
yeah, game changer. Definitely game changer.
I think all of us have been able to use barter to enhance awareness of us, not only locally, but also regionally and nationally. I was able to hire out of Lisa's region a lady that's helping me publish a book, right? My book is called Be Authentic. Unless you're a serial killer, then don't be that, change, right? And the idea being that authenticity is what matters to, you know, when I'm hiring somebody, just like I got your authenticity through the book as I'm reading it and I'm understanding your story. And to me, I already knew you. And then we've just met on this podcast, and I feel like I already know you because your authenticity shines through, right? Your genuineness shines through. But barter has enabled us to have a more national reach. And I think sometimes people forget about that because they don't understand that these are people that you would never be able to bring in, right? And that was hard for me to grasp. It was business that I would have never have seen. And so for you, Debbie, is barter as relevant today when you are in a better financial position? Is it as relevant today as it was back then?
It's equally relevant, because one of the things that deteriorates over time with mature businesses that are doing very well is profitability. We get sloppy, we get careless, we stop pinching pennies and being careful, and we allow our profits to erode. But if you're continuing to barter, you're always looking for ways to save money in your company. So instead of going and buying a whole bunch of gift cards to Starbucks for my employees to reward, 60 employees, we wait till a barter script comes along and we have 60 $5 coupon or certificates to Whataburger or a local sandwich shop. It's like, why wouldn't we do that on barter and give those 60 certificates to our employees? We've given our employees experiences, going to sporting events. We've given our employees Slitterbond tickets and entertainment tickets, and they love it. Tickets to the Crayola experience and all kinds of things. And we can't afford to just go buy those things indiscriminately. It is just so powerful to think of ways, even when you're not struggling, to use barter dollars.
Well, I would think, and I don't know what it's like. You're still in the Dallas Metroplex, right? So Louisville?
Louisville is where our office is located.
Okay. So one of the things I would imagine that hiring is a problem there, just like it is in our regions. At least, I don't know about you, but up here,
everywhere.
Right.
Everywhere.
So has barter enabled you to make a difference? Like those examples that you were just talking about, I would imagine that being able to barter for some of that stuff gives your employees benefits that they can't get anywhere else. Now, they're not your average. They're not your average health insurance benefit or that sort of stuff, but that's some cool benefits that increases lifestyle that they wouldn't have access to, right?
So we have an Automate Motivate app system where our employees accrue points for perfect attendance, for a certain number of jobs completed in a week, a certain number of positive reviews accrued online, right? So we have this app that tracks and gives them points. Well, then we assign barter items into the point system so that they can go and get $25 worth of fast food certificates.
Oh, I love that.
They can save up points and get a vacation for their entire family that we got on barter. There are so many powerful things. People are not thinking out of the box on how they can use barter to gift a special client. Imagine if you have so much barter built up that you want to dump a few barter dollars and create a $5,000 vacation for a drawing for your customers. right? Or, every customer that signs on for weekly service during the month of April will go into a drawing for a $3,500 vacation on the coast, right? And it's a house you got for 3 days on barter. It's just so incredible what
That's
you can do with
brilliant. That
this.
is so brilliant. So I was reading one of your blogs on your website just recently that talked about the different leadership styles. I think it was the second to the last one that you had written. So I think I have a pretty good idea now, but which leadership style do you consider yourself?
Are you talking about on the disc profile?
Well, you had a blog on there that just listed off the different leadership styles, and I'm going to guess you're a servant leader.
Okay, because that blog was probably written a long time ago, so I'd have to go back and refresh my memory. But especially if we use a lot in the disc profiling, and I'm definitely a high I, but I would definitely say I characterize my leadership style as a servant leader. I'm always looking for ways to help other people, because in the end, if you help enough people, as Zig Ziglar eloquently stated, if you help enough people get what they want, you will get what you want. So yeah, I would say servant leader is something I commit to. I can't say that I'm always on point, but I do my best.
Right, exactly. And it's interesting to me that most of the small business owners, or most of the business owners I talk to, say, I'm doing this because I want to help people. Yeah, I want to make some money. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a profit motive, but yes, I want to help people. I want to help people. And that's what businesses do. Businesses provide a product or a service that somebody else wants, and it solves a problem for them, right? That's why we exist. We are, and people forget that about business. We only make a profit if you're happy with the product or service. If you're not happy with the product or service, then you're not going to buy our product or service. And I think barter is a great way to open the door, right? Have you found an easier, more cost-effective marketing tool than barter?
I haven't. And if you're strategic about using your barter specifically for marketing, number one, you look for everyone you can work with in the barter network that does social media exchange or remnant ads in your local magazines or newspapers. But you can also use, especially for a business startup that doesn't have enough Google reviews, for example, a restaurant or a maid service, right? We thrive on Google reviews. And if you don't have enough Google reviews, you can attract some barter clients. Hey, who wouldn't give you a try on barter, right? And you get your first 100 cleans or your first 50 clients to give you a review on Google. Well, who's not going to give you a 5-star review when you just cleaned on barter and they didn't write a check, right? So it's a great way to build up your Google reviews. It's a great way to build up your Yelp reviews. You did a cleaning on trade. They're happy as clams because they didn't have to write a check. They gave you a set of videos, or they came out and put your sign up, or whatever it is they traded with, and their spouse is happy because now they have a clean house. Everybody's happy when there's a barter. When it's been done successfully, everyone's happy.
That's true.
It's very powerful, because I think that's the biggest struggle we have, is getting people to understand barter and understand how, if they do it correctly, because we've seen people that mess up on barter, right? They treat you as a second-class citizen, or they overcharge you, or that sort of stuff. And people go, well, how do you deal with that? I say, it's very simple. You don't buy from that person. If they're overpricing or they don't treat you well, just like in any other business that we use cash or credit cards or checks or whatever, we're not going to buy from that business again if we don't feel like we had a good experience. Barter's just a payment form. Right? It's not a way that forces you to use it. You're not forced to use barter, right?
Exactly. And in my book, I call those people barter sharks. Okay. What they do is they will inflate their prices beyond their worth. And the only suckers that pay those prices are their barter clients. And if you have high out-of-pocket costs like a maid service has, right, then you're going to be upside down on the arrangement. You should simply say no. If you can't charge me what you would charge a cash paying client, I can't do business with you. And so it's always on us to do our due diligence. It's always on us to ask the questions, get the comparable quotes. And if their quote isn't comparable, don't do business with them.
People, don't be a barter shark.
Okay. There you go. I love
going after a prop.
I got my props. So don't be a barter shark. treat people fairly. There you go. That's a prop for
And
today.
here's something else you also brought up, and this has to do with marketing, right? So if you treat your barter clients like second-class citizens, meaning we constantly call them up at the last minute and say, we're going to skip you, or we only send them trainees who really haven't developed their skill yet, so they get the worst cleaning that we offer, right? If we treat our barter clients like second-class citizens, they're not going to refer us to their neighbor. They're not going to refer us to their coworkers. We want our barter clients to refer us to cash clients. We want our barter clients to go to the Chamber of Commerce, and nobody needs to know we bartered, and go to the Chamber of Commerce and say, you should hire Buckets and Bows Maid Service. They clean my house once a month and it is spotless. It's awesome. And now their referral is generating cash business for me. So you should treat your barter clients like the true clients they really are. Give them first-class service, and then ask them to refer you, ask them for testimonials, and ask them for positive reviews on all of your social media sites.
You are absolutely preaching the perfect sermon for me.
Right.
Absolutely perfect. And I'm so grateful that you joined us today. And I had this chance, even if it was on Zoom, to get to meet you after reading the book, and just sharing your time with us is so valuable to us. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you so much.
And
thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
And I just want to reiterate. So you found that you got a lot of cash business from barter referrals, right? I think that's
I'm going to say some.
Right.
I'm going to say some. I'm not going to say a lot, but I did and have gotten some cash business from barter. The primary goal of barter was to save money. The secondary benefit was to also get some great referrals.
Right, exactly. And I'm sure those have led to other referrals. For my advertising business, I might have taken in 30,000 in barter, but I got about 10 to 15,000 in cash business in addition to that. And some of those customers stayed with me for years, right? And so that was reoccurring cash business. So what we'll end this up, we've got like 3 minutes left. What would be something that you would say that maybe could be a sound bite for somebody that is like, oh, I'm not sure about this barter thing. What should they do?
Well, I would say if you are trying to help someone understand the importance of barter, the best statement that I would give them is, look, if you want to save your cash, do barter. Or if you want to save your cash, trade with me. And then that'll get their wheels turning, going, what do you mean by that? And once they say, what do you mean by that? Sit down and have a conversation, explain to them how it works, and let them have a try. Let them have a taste.
Yeah, very good. Thank you so much for being on the show, Debbie. And then if somebody wants to find out more about what you do, what's the best place for them to go?
If you own a residential cleaning business and you're struggling to grow and scale it to 7 figures and beyond, just go to debbiesardone.com.
There you go, folks. You heard it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you.